So, I just finished editing Let's Talk PlayStation. The video is uploading right now, and you can probably watch that alongside this one currently. But this is a news story that is just too big and juicy to ignore. We recently learned from Jason Schreier over on Bloomberg that the Visual Arts Service Group, that secret San Diego team, they were working on a remake for The Last of Us on PlayStation 5. And they were doing that. That project was actually moved over to Naughty Dog now. There's a few things that we can really dissect here, so let's get into it. Now, as I just mentioned, this report is coming from Jason Schreier over on Bloomberg. I'll link this down below if you want to check it out. It is a paywall site, but usually you're entitled to 4 or 5 different free articles, so you can check this one out if you haven't been to the site regularly. But he's ran a lot of these exposés over the years. He does some excellent reporting, and this is something where we finally have some good clarity on what has really been going on with this secret team that has been unnamed and has been hiring for the past 2-3 years now, and it's not all that great, or at least the circumstances of how this is really played out. So Michael Mumbauer, he founded the Visual Arts Service Group in 2007. Basically, at a certain point, he got a group of about 30 developers internally, and they want to start making their own project, because as a lot of people know now at this point, the Visual Arts Service Group is best known for doing mocap, animation, and helping other Sony teams with their projects. And I guess what is really being capitalized on here is that they're the support team to help finish off all the other projects at Sony Studios. So this is something where the Visual Arts Service Group and Michael Mumbauer formed a team of people to actually start working on what is their own project. So essentially, this wasn't something that Sony was backing from the very onset. This was VASG specifically trying to do their own thing, and they started with a remake of The Last of Us for PlayStation 5, and that was them kind of making this a little bit more affordable, because it is very risky inherently to do a brand new IP or something that is inherently from scratch and trying to sell that to the manufacturer or a publisher. So a remake is something where that might be a little bit more digestible. Originally, they were looking at a remake for the first Uncharted game, which also would have been pretty interesting, but Uncharted is more aged, so that game would have seen more dramatic changes in terms of the gameplay department, just to modernize a little bit. If you've played the first game, then you kind of know that the game would need some adjustment in that area, but The Last of Us is more recent. We had The Last of Us Part 2, would have made sense for that release timeline, so that's why they settled on that particular game. And essentially, what ended up happening here was what we all know with The Last of Us Part 2. The game was delayed from 2019 to 2020, and this is where Sony called on the VASG to step in and help Naughty Dog finish up this game, thus having to pull away talent from this internal, self-funded, proposed project of remaking the original Last of Us game from 2013. And by the time that The Last of Us Part 2 was all said and done, essentially the project was swapped more or less. So it almost sounds like it was gradual, but maybe a little bit more instant, where Sony stepped in and said, okay, this Last of Us remake is now going with Naughty Dog, more or less. Which, of course, the leadership at VASG was not very happy about, so that team has actually disbanded. So this project that they were working on is still in Naughty Dog's hands and is coming at some point from Naughty Dog. So that kind of, that secret's out of the bag there, but it's not quite what we were expecting. It's not coming from this secret San Diego team, and this team was never actually given Sony's backing in the first place to begin with, or their real financial support. And what is also cited here is the leadership roles that were changed at Sony Interactive Entertainment in late 2019. This is when Herman Hulst also came in to oversee Worldwide Studios. So essentially what we're also hearing here is that when he looked at this particular project, he was asking why a remake is costing so much money versus other remakes, which they had to make their case for, well, you know, this is being shipped on PlayStation 5, so there's still a lot of things that are going to add up to actually releasing this game on a brand new engine and making it look nice and pretty, more or less. So they it just didn't pan out for them, basically. Or more so, the financial backing ended up going with Naughty Dog. So once the project was carried over to Naughty Dog, that's where Sony apparently started to get more comfortable with giving this project the budget and the staff that it would need to actually come out. So we're expecting it, but it's unfortunate to understand what happened behind the scenes with VASG specifically, and the small team that really were trying to do their own thing and never really had any major support from Sony on the very onset. Another example that we have here is Bend Studio and the potential of a Days Gone 2. So apparently we have learned that Days Gone 2 was pitched in 2019, and while the first game did turn a profit and did okay, it didn't do exceptionally well, and it had mixed reviews at the time, right, if you remember that, which a lot of that was mostly due to the overall performance hiccups of the game. Once that was cleared up, the game started to get a lot more positive, warm reception. But either way, it seems like Sony has actually denied that, and in fact, they were trying to move over a lot of those people, a lot of those teams at Sony Bend to work on more Naughty Dog projects. So one team was assigned to a multiplayer project at Naughty Dog, and then another team was assigned to making a new Uncharted game with the supervision of Naughty Dog being involved. And it seems like Sony Bend was not at all thrilled with that idea, and the leadership at Sony Bend basically asked, can we be taken off this? Can we do our own thing? And it seems like that was actually granted as well. So, but it looks like it's not a Days Gone 2 for those that were looking forward to that possibility. So that is all the information that we have right now, and it just goes to show that even though we can follow these news stories very closely, all the rumors, hints, news drops, and speculate for what is a multi-year period, we still have no real idea of what's going on until we have something like this. Words directly from people that were attached very closely to the project. So for a while, we were thinking that that secret San Diego team was very much in the veins of organic growth, as in it had Sony backing. But turns out this was really more of a calculated effort from a small team within VASG trying to make their case to say, hey, let us make our own stuff so we don't have to keep working on other projects amongst all of PlayStation Studios. And it's interesting that a remake, I wonder what the budget would have been like for this remake for The Last of Us. Now, obviously, it's viable to the point where Sony said, okay, yeah, we'll do this, but we're going to hand it over to Naughty Dog because we feel more comfortable with them doing it versus, a small group that, you've never really done something like this before. And this is kind of what we just discussed in the LTPS episode that I just filmed. It's that Sony has done they've approached PlayStation 5 in a very conservative manner, and that's worked okay for the most part, right? It's very beneficial when you see those big budget, high caliber releases that we're still expecting, right? I'm sure this is going to have this news in particular is going to have a lot of negativity surrounding it, but we're still going to see those big budget releases for PlayStation, but it's very much such a focus on those projects versus allowing another team to do something else, right? It seems like Sony's getting a little bit too risk averse, which is not it's not great. I mean, the thing is too, Sony still do risky things like funding Dreams and doubling down on Dreams. Pixel Opus is a small team doing a lot of really weird niche creative things. They're still going out of their way to try new IP in the multi-million-dollar range, and we know that for Sony's new IP, where something like Horizon, that's a $100, $200, $300 million something game, especially when you start accounting for the marketing push that a title like that will actually have. So for a remake, even if it was more expensive than, say, other remakes, I don't know. I'm curious as to how high that bill would have actually been under VASG. So it's like if they were going to spend that much, yeah, we're giving this to Naughty Dog. But the thing is, too, you can't keep shuffling around the same talent over and over and over again. So as much as I like Naughty Dog and as much as I like any of the other first-party teams that Sony has, at a certain point, you have to start bringing in new talent. You have to start hiring more aggressively, and you do have to look at that organic growth. And I'm wondering at this point what, my knee-jerk reaction here is, where is this organic growth outside of your own studios, right? So like we saw the formation of the Malaysia studio, but that's a support team. VASG, we know they've been delegated to a support team for the longest time, and they weren't even given that true opportunity. We can even see something like Days Gone, which didn't really do bad per se. It's just that, okay, yeah, you can keep doing your own thing, but no Days Gone 2. We just talked about the Kojima deal in the LTPS episode, and now I'm starting to think that, yeah, Sony maybe passed on the next Kojima game, if anything. Who knows if a discussion was really had there, and who knows what the proposition would have been from Kojima's point of view. we can't say for certain, but you know, we're starting to get a better picture of just how conservative Sony's getting and how much they're doubling down in these big budget projects outside of, you know, pretty much everything else. But they do need to start looking outside of it, just in the veins of, you know, not, I mean, I guess this is why they're doing so many second-party deals, right? So there's still IP that they own, but they can go into this contracting out other teams and seeing how that happens. And that's where you could also see that process of them slowly evaluating a team's viability for maybe an acquisition or more future projects down the road. It's interesting to see how Sony has changed that dynamic. They haven't even changed too much, but it's still there, right? So yeah, that's my knee-jerk reaction to this story. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to sit on it versus LTPS, where we can go the whole week and I can kind of really think about those stories. But yeah, that's what we just learned today. The Last of Us Remake coming to PlayStation 5. No Days Gone 2. The Secret San Diego team is no more from the looks of it. And that's what we've got today so far. And there's also the LTPS. Go watch that as well, since that's like 20-something minutes of news throughout the week. But that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't yet, please subscribe for the best PlayStation news, reviews, and updates that are here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at Mystic Ryan. And that is it. I will see you all in my next video. You take it easy.